when you grow, you have to be comfortable with there's going to be people who don't like you. Plenty of people have fallen because of things on their cell phone, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's make sure we have the right programs on there and accountability to help block and all these things. Let's have some things in place. Let's have some disciplines in place to protect you, because we all are capable of falling. I'm just on my cell phone, and then my wife's going to bed by herself because I'm still on my cell phone.
Hi, this is Sifu Slim, author of The Aging Athlete. In this book, you're going to get to hear about two different groups of former high-performance athletes. One group, which is made up of 90% of the former athletes, does not do physical activity on a regular basis and tends to suffer the consequences of a sedentary lifestyle. The other group, which is made up of 10% of the former athletes, is doing physical activity on a regular basis and tends to thrive through the aging process, or at least has a better chance at coping with the aging process. We could have taken these folks to a lab and done all kinds of tests on them. Instead, we slowed them down and sat them down and asked them, in their own words, to describe why they're wired the way they are, so that we all, former athletes and non-athletes, can use some of their inspirational and motivational and mindset lessons in our own lives. I hope you pick up a copy today. You can go to theagingathlete.com. And when you have a chance to read it, I'd love to hear back from you to find out what your thoughts are on the stories of these aging athletes. Hey there, folks. This is Sifu Slim, and I am coming to you live from Portland South. I'm in Santa Barbara, California, and since November of last year, this area has had the coldest weather that many people can remember. That's why they're calling this Portland South, and that's why on the 1st or 2nd of May, I'm wearing my Patagonia down jacket, and I wore long pants when I was doing my wind sprints this morning. So that's a new thing for the month of May for much of the time and much of my life since 2004, being partially based in Santa Barbara, California. And I have the pleasure today to talk about leadership, to talk about goal setting, self-mastery, self-realization, and open-heartedness, open-mindedness today with someone who has a very long background for a young fella in leadership. And so I'm going to bring in Pastor Mike Stevens, who's in Jupiter, Florida right now, and say hello, and Mike, and tell us a little bit about your background.
Hey, Sifu, it's good to be with you guys. And I can't relate to the cold weather. It's nice and warm here, and we're paddle boarding, and it's nice in Jupiter. So just come on back with us.
I just left 2 days ago. I think I came back a few days too early to Santa Barbara.
Oh man, well, hey, it is really good to be with you. A little bit about me. I'm a father to three little boys. Been married for 14 years. I'm 38 years old, but I've been in ministry on staff at a church since I was 17. Did a few other things along the way, but have been in the business world and in the church world for quite some time.
Wonderful. So the highlight, I'm going to just ask you if you wouldn't mind. And first, I'll answer your question. You asked me about Sifu, the title that I go by. So I don't know if you remember Gilligan's Island, and there's a famous guy who died at 96 in 2011. His name is Jack LaLanne, and he was the United States godfather of fitness and diet. And he started his career back in the 1930s in Berkeley, California. Anyway, I jokingly tell people that Jack LaLanne mixed with Bruce Lee, trapped inside the body of Gilligan. And so the joke there is that I've been working on fitness my entire life, and I'm still built like I started out as a thin person without the linebacker build that at age 10 and 12, I thought I could grow into if I worked myself up to that. But of course, we have our genetics to deal with, and the genetics that come from our parents. And I have two parents who are
who have both grown up as thin people, and they pass those genes on to me. So yesterday on my airplane, I fit in quite nicely into a seat, whereas a lot of people are encroaching on my territory if they sit next to me.
Oh yeah, yeah. Let's not go down that path.
So Sifu is from like sensei in Japanese, the master of a certain martial art.
Yeah.
Sifu is Cantonese, so Bruce Lee would have been Sifu Bruce, and Shifu, as in Kung Fu Panda, would have been the Mandarin version, the father, teacher, and master of a certain martial arts or philosophy, and that's
Okay.
that's the handle. The handle that they call it these days, or my rapper name would be Sifu Slim. And now today we get a
I love
chance
that.
to rap together. Mike, what do you think about that?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's throw some bars down.
So let's, if we can, since you're an interesting cat, let's walk through the first decade, second decade, and bring us up to almost your fourth decade on this planet. Maybe some of the highlights of your youth, and then your young adulthood, and then the last 15 years as an honorable soul, and a man, and now a dad and husband, moving into that. So tell us a little bit about the trajectory that you started with and how you got to where you are now.
Oh man, so the quick story really is that I grew up in a family with 11 pastors in my family, and my parents were not pastors. But what's interesting is that within that, so many of the people in my family that were pastors, they had a lot of hardships, a lot of divorces, affairs, all those things that really hurt the family, it hurt the church. Just a lot of pain growing up, and seeing the behind the scenes of some of these things happening in the church. I actually grew up not wanting to be a part of it, and so my parents forced me to go to church, and I was all about basketball, and they forced me to go to church. And once I actually would go and serve in the kids ministry just so I wouldn't have to go into the main service when I was a teenager. And week after week, hearing the messages, I realized that God had a calling on my life, and I wanted to pursue that, but I wanted to look different than some of the examples that were set before me. And so I got some strong accountability in my life. I got some mentors in my life, and I pretty much let them direct my life and guide my life from that point. And so at a young age, I was almost 17 years old, is whenever that all shifted for me. I had a mentor in my life that I went and spent every day with, and he just coached me. And from there, I went to college near Sacramento, California, and I got a degree in Bible and theology, but I also had one foot in the business world. So business management was another one, in marketing. And I started working at Brookstone and retail and selling massage chairs and beds and all those things. And from there, I was a manager doing that and doing the church. And I was just kind of in both worlds for a while. And honestly, thriving and enjoying it. I had a lot of fun in both worlds. But once I was 22, I graduated college, went full time at a church. A few years later, I moved to Mississippi to a small church there that became one of the fastest growing churches in Mississippi. And I had the privilege of being the executive pastor for 12 years, and being able to see the growth and using the gifts and talents I feel like God has placed in my life. I want to reach people, but also it takes systems and processes to make sure that people aren't forgotten, that people are connecting, and letting people see that there's integrity in leadership still. It's not all the stories that I grew up looking at. Like, it's still the same God. There's still a God that I want to lead people towards. But there's still church hurt. I want people to know that it doesn't end with that.
So Mike, you said the family members choosing to do things that went against the tenets of your faith and the protocol of just human dignity. So they're schisms. That's an ancient word in the background of the Catholicism. Schisms in the church, which led to a variety of problems and power struggles just in the church itself, and then changing the bar on what it meant to be a follower of Catholicism or any form of Christianity. There are all these different factions always forming. And so
Yeah.
throughout history, you had deaths caused by these things. You had burnings of churches and villages. You had assassinations and beheadings. How do you look at the different parts of our theological background and make any sense of it, and then educate, let's say, a 15-year-old who's in high school now and asking questions about those things, and what direction do I turn to? Because he's saying that your church and your denomination is saying this, but other denominations are saying that. How does one handle that when they're coaching and mentoring a 15-year-old in 2023?
It's difficult because there's I feel like nowadays there's so many more things that our teenagers are being hit with that we were never hit with. I had to go on a phone that was connected to a wall with a cord to talk to people and all these things. And now that, every middle schooler, high schooler has a phone in their pocket and access to all kinds of information and temptations and all the things that come with that, it definitely changes everything. The things that kids are exposed to is different than what we were exposed to when we were kids. And so I was exposed to the pain that other people were having, but still my parents tried to protect me from those things, even within our own family, where it's harder to protect them from it now. So honestly, I go back to what is the main thing? The main thing is that that Jesus saves, that I love God. I think sometimes that we make Christianity more complicated than it needs to be. I think that sometimes Christians divide more so than any other. You think about it, like there's so many different denominations and all, just based on like, we believe this one little thing, and here's a little tweak, and here's a whole other denomination, and we're going to split a church off of this disagreement. And it's interesting that Christ followers get so bent out of shape and divide so much more. I'm looking over here at the enemy thinking the enemy is pretty united and has like one goal, right? And we're hurting ourselves by dividing so much. And trying to show people that what if we had a whole lot more in common? What if we fought for unity? And yeah, there's some people that make some poor decisions, and I'm sorry, we all have sinned and fallen short. We've all made mistakes, but at the end of the day, that doesn't make the message false. That doesn't make my God false. It makes humans sinful. So
good. Yeah, good points. There's in martial arts, which is a pretty ancient thing, combat between two people and between multiple people is an ancient thing. And I'm just looking online and my picture's not on there for some reason. Let me see where I went. Do you see me?
I still see you.
Oh, you still see me.
You look great too.
I don't think it's recording me because when I have it chosen for speaker, it's not showing me on the screen there. Let me see here. All right, we'll just go with it. Next on my list, balance in a busy life. So you mentioned being a father, a husband, an executive pastor. You just mentioned you traveled.
Yeah.
You told me you were on a retreat or a conference.
Yeah.
So tell us about maintaining balance, and then also the physicality. You mentioned being interested in basketball. How do you do your mind, body, and spirit connection when the day gets really busy and the phone calls don't cease?
Yeah, I'm glad you're asking me today instead of a few years ago. It's something I'm definitely still learning. I think a lot of us are, right? We have 24 hours in the day. But I'm definitely a person that I'm on go at all times. And I've just always been like that. I want to go. And I have a wife who's very honest with me and very wise as well, who's sometimes checking me a little bit. And I'm learning to kind of check my soul, check some of the things going on in my body, like how am I really feeling? Because yeah, my main thing is that I'm here at the church as the executive pastor. However, on the side, I also do staffing and coaching for churches around the country. And then on the side, I'm also a part of hireaminister.com, where you can go and technically hire me between Miami and Orlando to do a wedding or funeral for you. So I mean, I'm just kind of on go at all times, but I enjoy that. But I have to find ways to retreat. I'm around people a lot. And so for me, I need some time where I'm not around everybody. So for me, I enjoy going home. Watching basketball is a thing that really helps rejuvenate me. But like right now, I'm working on building a privacy fence. Just going outside, building the fence, doing the concrete. It's hard work, but like just being outside by myself really helps rejuvenate myself. It's hard sometimes with three little boys because they're always going. But finding those little pockets are important, and open communication. My wife is the opposite, so she's the one that she's kind of refilled by being around people. So if she had it her way, every single night there'd be a group of people at our house, and so we've had to learn to really communicate in that because I can't have that and be at my best on the other side of that, whereas she needs that. Um, but I also my boys wake up about 7 o'clock in the morning. So I've had to learn that, if I really want me time like consistently every day, I have to go before they get up. And so I get up about 5:30 in the morning. I go jogging, run a couple miles, do my devotional, like spend that time whenever my house is just silent. And I enjoy that about 5 or 6 days a week.
So do you remember the story of Martin Luther, who had to run so he wouldn't be arrested in
Yeah.
the 1500s, I believe, correct?
No, I think so. Yes.
1500s. The founding of Protestantism followed that,
Mhm.
and he lived with uh, a noble in a castle, and he was protected by this noble. And I don't know if they had thousands of troops there to protect him, or I have to look that one up again. But let's say that you were removed from your current busy schedule, your family and everything, and you were in
Mhm.
a small room in a castle and you couldn't come out because you were afraid someone was going to grab you and arrest you or something like that.
Mhm.
What would you do in terms, let's say they didn't even have a book for you. Maybe they had
Yep.
some paper and a pen. And back in those days, it would be a quill, right? With an ink thing you could
Mhm.
dip into it. And if you could read and write back then, that was rare. But let's say like Martin Luther, you
Yeah.
could. And, we have things called prison yoga. So people have a small prison cell. They're doing exercises. They're doing yoga.
Mhm.
Sometimes in prison, they want to be as buffed as possible because they want to go out and be able to defend themselves, etc. Other times, it's a combination of that and wanting to feel good in your mind and body. And so they do these workouts or these yoga things because they can't just lay on their bed and get their 1 hour or half hour of recreation per day. What are some of the things that you might tap into if you had 1 month of that, so you didn't go stir crazy, and so you could work on self-mastery and your connection to your spiritual entities, these types of things?
But yeah, I mean, a year and a half ago, I had about 4 months where I wasn't employed anywhere. And we actually went to Illinois to my wife's parents' house and stayed with them for a few months. And they live on a dead end road where there's just actually like this is not even an exaggeration. There's a cemetery at the front of the road, and it's just cornfields from that point on, and no internet, nothing. And so in that moment, I know you're saying I couldn't go outside, but in that moment I did. I went out and jogged a lot. And I did listen to a lot of audiobooks as well. I was putting down about 2 books a week or so during that period, and I was running about 10 miles every other day just because I had time and I wanted to keep moving and I wanted to stay active and be ready for when I was back in it. And I think if I was confined to a room, obviously I would physically want to do a lot. My wife teaches bar classes. I
Yeah,
don't know how
yeah,
familiar you are with that, but
definitely.
I'm learning a lot more about that because she does that. And there's so much there that, to strengthen your core, your legs, your arms, your upper, all, every part of you, and not really need a whole lot of space, just need your mat, right? And so I would see like myself probably doing a lot of that and a lot of writing. I enjoy writing. I enjoy uh, fun writing and also like serious like leadership type writing. I do a lot of teach a lot of huddles every week for a lot of our teams and our leaders here. Just trying to bring in some leadership practices to help them in their businesses while also leading teams here for our church. But I wrote a book a long time ago called A Kid Named Toby. It was a Dr. Seuss style book with a Christian twist, but it was good enough to get into the public school system. And so having like those fun, creative things is probably what I would do as well, because I love being creative and finding joy in that.
So, Mike, what you shared about you needing to put up the privacy wall and to make sure that people couldn't access your presence at all times. It's more important for people that have the creative streak, that have things they want to invent, things they want to test, thoughts they want to work out. Yeah. And I'm one of those people. And it's really important for us to have that set time, and that time where if we need another hour or two, that we can communicate with our loved ones. Yep. And say, hey, I'll make up for it later on tonight, but let me finish this project because I'm on a roll. And as a writer who's written, since he was 10 years old and trying to make that a career for maybe the last 20, it's so important for me to advance my skill because, as time goes on, I'm 60 now. How many more bouts of energy and impulse that I have to take a book from beginning to middle to end and then do all the editing? They say writing is rewriting. Yeah. And you got to rewrite these things a lot to get them down where every word and every sentence and every paragraph in the mix of those 300 pages, 200 pages, or what have you, it all fits with artfulness and without overdoing anything. So it's amazing how much time we need to do that. And then I have to do all of my fitness, my diet, my money making, all those other things alongside of it. So that's the juggling process of any entrepreneurial thing or education. And pastors always have a new workshop, always have a new seminar, always have a new program that they're working on, and then new people coming in and into the employment of that church and new members coming in. So it's really hard to, I would imagine, for someone like you to put down the program that's going to work and satisfy and keep as many parties as they can feeling that they're being attended to.
I mean, it's true. I learned a long time ago, you need to, if you're going to be an effective leader, you need to learn how to juggle and identify what balls you're juggling. And so when you're juggling, which I do know how to juggle, I had to learn that too, a kids pastor a long time ago. But as you juggle, know that some of the balls that you're juggling are crystal and some of them are rubber. And when you drop one might bounce back up, the others would shatter. And so knowing which ones that you're okay to drop for a moment is important. So in my case, like my family's a crystal ball. I'm not going to drop that one. I'm going to keep that one going in the air. Whereas some of the other ones, they're still important. I still want to keep them up, but there's some of them that I can drop for a moment while I juggle the others and then pick it back up again, and we're going to be okay.
Gotcha. So the art of juggling fits in with, the job description that you have. And how about the ability to say no? Can you tell me when the first time is that you were able to do that, or how you learned about the ability to say no in a diplomatic way? Share that if you would, Mike.
Well, I think, a lot of times you want to be a people pleaser, right? And so, I want to be a people pleaser. A lot of times I want people to be happy. Everyone wants everyone to like you. And so that the first time saying no is always difficult. I remember I was actually probably, I'm sure I did it before this, but the more, the times that stand out in my mind more were, I was in Mississippi. Because in Mississippi, the church had gone from 250 people, and I was the executive of the 250 people at that church, to being over 3,000, 3,500 in a small town that was only 30,000 people. So it was a significant jump in 10 years. And so when you grow, you have to be comfortable with there's going to be people who don't like you. There's going to be people who disagree with you literally every single time you make a decision. And so I also had to learn how to say no to quite a few things because you get asked to speak at different things, or you get everyone wants you to go to the hospital with them, and I want to, but I also have a crystal ball that I'm juggling, which is my family. I can't go every night of the week to the hospital with every single person, or I can't take every single phone call. And I used to try that. I mean, I'd be on the phone while my kids are sitting there playing in front of me. I'm just on my cell phone, and then my wife's going to bed by herself because I'm still on my cell phone, and that would happen a lot. And so once you realize, hey, I'm dropping a crystal ball, it's beginning to crack. Like, no, I need to get this back in the air. Like, I love these people, but I need to put some other systems in place so they could be loved by more than just me. It can't rise and fall on me anyways. That's not healthy. So I started spending more of my time in investing in growing coaches and other volunteer leaders under me, and investing a lot of my time into them so they can invest into others. And I can reach more people that way. And I want them all to feel loved, and I want them all to be connected. But at the same time, I'm one person, and if something happened to me, let's say I get in a car wreck after this and I die, the church has to continue on tomorrow without me. And I want them to. I want them to keep moving without any hiccup. And so it needs to go well beyond me. So I need to see the bigger picture and say no.
Got it. That's really important. Thanks for sharing that, Mike. You and I, when we first met, it was at Easter time, and I had asked you. You mentioned your family bio, some pieces of your family bio at that point, and then I said, this concept of redemption. I heard it, Joe Rogan talking about this on his podcast a number of years ago. And if someone comes out and admits something, they're trying to clear something off of their heart and mind, and they're trying to be vulnerable. Those are all good things. If you're in the Native American tribe and you're passing the peace pipe around, one of the things might be, hey, these are some areas I really screwed up. I let myself down. I let some people here down. I'm asking for your forgiveness. Can we talk about this? Can we get this out so that it's not hindering me and hindering our relationships in the future? I did screw up, which is human normalcy. Animals screw up, humans screw up, nature sometimes screws up. And so here we are. And now we're going through this redemption thing. And it oftentimes in our culture with the media and the cancel culture wasn't just invented in the last 5 years. It's always been around from competing entities in politics or anything. They wanted to get someone out of their way so they could take that spot. They could hinder that person from gaining something that they're both after. And so we have this competition thing, and oftentimes competition could have been underhanded, and it still can be underhanded. So maybe talk to us about how to deal with slip-ups, moving into redemption, and re-earning trust for all parties, because we know we're going to slip up in the future. So how do we warm people up to that effect and have them pre-primed for the reconnection and the admission of guilt, and then the mending of that relationship?
Yeah, I mean, you said it. Everyone falls short. We all can make a mistake, and the minute that we begin to believe that we are above that is the second that we are probably right where I would say the enemy wants to get you, because you're just setting up the pride before the fall, right? And so, I'd say to help prevent you from falling too hard or too far, accountability is so important. It doesn't matter if we're talking about Christianity or in a business or in any with just your family. You need accountability. You need people that actually care about you and will be honest with you, and not just a bunch of yes men in your life, right? I think that's just so important. So in the experiences that I've seen with people that have fallen, I agree there needs to be a way for them to redeem themselves, and that there needs to be a path. But I think it has to be clear, and it also, obviously changes for which situation takes place. I mean, if a person has an affair and from that affair there's a child, and like obviously there's um, a lot more people affected, and there's just a lot that is going to happen there. If I fell as a pastor at a church, the repercussions are going to be different than if I was still managing at a Brookstone, right? Because they don't care if I get a divorce and all, like, but the church does. They're not going to throw me out or anything, but like I would be severely hurt in what I do professionally. At the same time, like honestly, as Christians, I feel like many times we're the only ones that kick our wounded. And I see this all the time. Like when someone falls, we just hop on social media and we just kick them while they're down. While we got all kinds of skeletons hidden in our own closet. And so I would say that's one area that as a Christ follower and Christian, like we need to work on. We need to do a lot better at having love and showing grace to those who do fall. And if that person truly is wanting to repent for what they did and they want to get right, I think there needs to be a clear path, clear accountability, and a way to help them get back on their feet, and a way to be healthier at the end of it. Same thing as like an alcoholic or a drug addict or someone who's addicted to pornography or any of these things. Like, if you want to get to this healthier place in your life, we need a clear path. We need accountability. We need a plan. You can't just go out and just be like, hey, I'm just not going to do it anymore. I'm just not going to drink anymore, but I'm still going to hang out with my friends at the bar. No, that's not going to work. And so let's make a clear plan on how we're going to get you to this healthier place and have people in your life who love you enough to be honest with you.
Yeah, Mike, you talked about accountability, and I don't know, have you ever read the history of Alcoholics Anonymous, AA?
I haven't, no.
So the reading that I had of it, which was maybe 15, 20 years ago, I love history and I love the genesis of entities. And so this AA, well, I guess was sorely needed. I don't know what predates AA, but maybe a family member taking you aside and saying, hey, I'm an alcoholic, or so-and-so's an alcoholic, and these are things that we can work on together. But what it basically is, it's the power of the human dynamic of more than one person. And so if you have a pack of dogs, it's two dogs. They act completely differently when there's two of them, when there's one.
Yeah.
If there are two of them coming at you to guard their space, they know that one can come behind you as the other one is distracting you in front. And so the power of the pack is two. And then when you get to a pack of 10 hyenas, the lion's now afraid. Two hyenas against a lion, the lion can swat one of them and worry about the other one next. But if there's 10 or 15, it's a real tough job with the wild dogs and the hyenas for the lion. And so that's what this AA did. It was an individual who showed up in a town. This gentleman who founded it had made and lost fortunes by the time he was in his mid or late 30s. And so he had that ability to be a rainmaker and make all this money and start things. But then he knew he was going to fall either economically or alcohol or both. And so one day he said, I don't want to repeat this again. He shows up in this town. He goes to, this is back, I believe, in the 1940s or 50s. He shows up in this town, might have even been in the 20s or 30s, and he gives the payphone in a booth, and he opens up the pages, the white pages or the yellow pages, and he looks up doctor, and he's in this small town, and it's coming up on closing time, and he reaches a doctor, and he says, I'm at a restaurant, I need help, I'm going to start drinking soon, can you come here and be with me? And the doctor went there and hung out with them, and they stayed all night long in this 24-hour restaurant, like a Denny's now, all night long. And the first thing the doctor told him, he says, I'm really glad to meet you. I'm Dr. So-and-so, and I am an alcoholic too. So we're going to do this thing together tonight. And I don't know how the next trajectory went for writing down their 12 steps and the book and all these types of things, but that's how they started. And it's that power of two, and that's the accountability I think that would be helpful for a pastor to be in a group
Yeah.
of other pastors so they can do their maintenance of all the things that they're working on. And then when somebody slips up, they can be picked up. And when somebody's really excelling, that person can share how they're excelling, and they can spread that good vibe with the other pastors. So maybe, Mike, you can share what
Yeah.
you think about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a right now there's been plenty of stories in the church in the last few years of pastors that have fallen. And I think honestly, during the COVID season kind of exposed some things that needed to be exposed. And now there's so many pastors that are seeking to make sure that we don't fall like that again. Let's show that there's integrity. People need us to show there's integrity. So there's a lot more opportunity, a lot more openness right now than ever before that I've ever seen. So there's multiple groups I'm in right now with people that are really close to me that I spend time with, but then others I mentor as well, that I'm in their life. And but there's people in my life that call me on a regular basis, and it's just, hey, how's your soul? How's your wife? How's your kids? But then also asking the questions that I'm not going to share on here, but like saying, hey, if you were to fall, how would it be? And because we all know, I know, people watching, they know, we all know how that would be. We've played those things out in our head. And so if you have some people in your life that be like, hey, if I'm just being extremely vulnerable, if I was going to fall, this is how I would do it. And having people really watch your six on that, right? Really paying attention to you, making sure that, hey, do we have things in place for that? Because I have known plenty of people that have fallen because of things on their cell phone, right? Yeah. Well, let's make sure we have the right programs on there and accountability to help block and, all these things. Let's have some things in place. Let's have some disciplines in place to protect you, because we all are capable of falling.
Yeah, the human neurology, as you know, we're all affected by images and thoughts, and we show up on this planet. I remember Dr. Laura, who's the online kind of a psychologist, but her background, I think, was in cultural anthropology. She talked about the fact, this is back in the 90s, that her son, whom she had kept away from television and movies, I'm not sure if the kid was homeschooled, but when he was a very young age, he knew to take his finger and go bang, bang. And she was opposed to, handguns and being around that type of thing, and violence, et cetera. But this young lad, just through like the ethers, knew about guns, as most young boys do. Maybe if you went 10,000 years ago, they would all know about throwing a spear or a hatchet or a knife. But this hunting and this defending it seems like it's in our DNA, and it winds up in our neurology, almost like a natural type of a thing. So talk about like the addiction level, the neurological level of images that affects, you and me as growing boys. We looked at females, if we were hetero, with with this neurology that said, hey, potential mate, hey, potential date, hey, potential intimacy, all of these types of things. But then when we're in a relationship and we're eventually married, and these types of things, how do we turn that down or assess it in such a way that we're not going to take the step into leaving a good situation with our committed family members and taking a dalliance with a one-night stand, let's say? So maybe share some thoughts on that, Mike.
Man, we could unpack that for Sifu, let me tell you. So let's do a series. So yeah, during our time, it was you physically see a female, and you think, man, she's cute, and you're attracted, and obviously there's times where there's lust connected to all these things, and but we had to work harder in our generation, right? You had to like get magazines to have pornography. You had to, sneak stuff and all these things. And so we were just more protected because it was just harder to do these. Now, I'm talking to kids that are sixth graders who are like borderline addicted to pornography because their parents see their cell phone. It's like, well, it's theirs, and so I want to give them their privacy. I'm like, they're in sixth grade. They don't get it's your other phone. It's not their phone, right? Like you're paying for it, not your kid. And so at the end of the day, you have these kids that are just, they're not protected. They're seeing so much more than what we were ever exposed to. So I was always taught, my wife kind of teases me about this guy. I still do it today, but I was always taught like to bounce your eyes. So when you're in a mall and you see Victoria's Secret, like bounce your eyes and try to put your focus on something else. But I think the bigger conversation here, and this is probably, we don't have time to unpack all of today, but I think the bigger conversation is sex. I think what has happened, especially in the church world, is that we spent years and years and years going, sex is bad, sex is bad, sex is bad, sex is bad. And then you're married, and it's like, now it's good. Well, now you have people who are married that are uncomfortable, and it's confusing, and the growing up part, it's there's all this confusion as a teenager, and we're trying to change some of our conversations now to go, no, sex is awesome, it's amazing, it was created by God, yeah, it's great, and I love it. But you know what? God made it and intended it for this other time, and this is why it's healthier for you, for the other person, for your relationship, if you just wait, and changing the conversation a little bit, because the world is always going to be throwing that at us. But I think we've done a poor job of giving kids growing up into adulthood the right perspective on it. And so we don't give them the right tools and then throw them at the wolves and expect them to defend themselves, and they can't. And so if we have the right conversations, like my son right now, my oldest is 9. So I'm going on little walks with him and stuff like that, where I have intentional conversations with him. And we have a different topic. So like I have a topic, like the last one we did was on integrity. So we took a little walk and we sat down. What do you think integrity is? And we kind of talked about it. And it was just a little quick conversation, but I'm doing this on a regular basis now with him. I'm about to start with his brother, who is 6. Because once I get this relationship where he knows he can talk to me about anything, now I could put in more conversations that we're not talking just about integrity. He just knows that it's a protected conversation. I'm always open to talk about anything that he wants to talk about, and nothing's going to shock me or throw me back. Like we're just gonna have this conversation and be open about it. And what will happen is, as he's getting into some of these things, the hope is that as he gets to some of these barriers, I'm there and ready to receive that conversation with him.
Yeah, part of being in balance, which we've touched on a few times here today, and having our own downtime, and then being around our mentors and our peers, like your co-pastors on a pastor's retreat, so they can work on the health and the intellect and the heart and the spirituality of the pastors, because they need that time too. Pastors need good pastors. I do a lot with athletes and coaches and sports medicine doctors and sports psychologists in my interviews and in my writing and coaching. And I asked one gentleman who's been a professional athlete, and he's been a coach as well in a number of different fields in athletics and martial arts. I said, tell me about coaches. I said, coaches need really good coaches for themselves, don't they? And he answered back very assertively. He said, coaches need even better coaches than they are. So that means there's a master coach over here, regardless of whether that coach is a master of self and in every aspect of his life, which would be almost impossible. And then we go back to perfection, and was Jesus perfect? That would be another discussion right there. Or was he a man who was evolving through the process of life? So this guy said coaches need even better coaches, and that made me think that the more I advance, the more I want to be with people who are more advanced than I have in some aspect, so that they can keep me accountable and honest and open-hearted and open-minded. So maybe you could share on that, Mike.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know quite a few counselors that I know marriage counselors that have struggled severely in their marriage. I know counselors for children that don't have a good relationship with their children, right? So it's so important that if you're going to be pouring out, that you have the right people refilling and pouring back into you. but you have to initiate that. You can't just expect people to just come out and coach you. And I think that's the thing, is finding that balance. You have to know, if I'm pouring out, then I need to be poured into. And so I have not perfected this, and I'm trying to grow in this area. But even like this last week, I was gone at a conference and learning and growing. And then the last 2 days, I just took vacation days. And my wife and I, we left our kids with grandma and grandpa in Mississippi, and we came back home to Florida and spent 2 days just watching movies and ordering Chinese food and paddleboarding, and just not really having an agenda, to just kind of get my head right and be ready to go at it again. And so you have to find those moments and say, okay, I'm turning it off. My phone wasn't in my pocket, and just it's okay. It could all wait until next week now.
That's wonderful. Time out, time out for yourself, and for time with your wife, and the grandparents picked up the slack as grandparents are wont to do. So I have another page worth of stuff. Maybe we could do this again in the future. I'll send you an invitation. Maybe we can pick another date, and I think we'll leave this with the zing that I hope it currently has. And if you'd like, you're welcome, Mike, to share a website that you feel would be helpful to people. And maybe if somebody wanted to contact you for any reason, if you're open to that, please share a website.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, you can always email me. It's Mike s@generationchurch.com. That's a great way to contact me. Now, if it comes down to like a website for help, that's something where I feel like it depends on like what you're walking through. There's just different people that I lean into for different things. Like I said, I still stay pretty connected with the business world as well as the church world. And so whatever someone's walking through, I love to help connect people. And it's something where I feel like as you grow in your leadership, as I'm trying to grow myself, I want to make sure, there's so many people that have spoken into my life that I need to go ahead and make sure I'm doing the same to others as well. And so I want to give them whatever resources that I've been given as well. So
Gotcha, Mike. So I'll connect through the internet, and once I click off today, we won't have the chance to say goodbye. So I'll say goodbye now, and thanks for this lovely occasion to share some thoughts with you. And I hope to have another one in the upcoming weeks or months.
Well, Sifu, it was a privilege and an honor. Thank you for having me.
All the best. And so please, viewers, please like and subscribe, and connect with Mike if you'd like to do so. And we'll look forward to hearing any questions or comments below this video. And in aloha and praises and blessings, take care.